So, hello. Yes, this is
Hello.
Ethan Rundell with Vauban Books, and for our first ever attempt at podcast. And today we're joined by Driss Ghali, the author of A Counter History of French Colonization, the book here, which we brought out late last year. And he's joined us to discuss the book and more generally issues relating to contemporary France and Western Europe. Uh, Unfortunately, we were not, Louis Betty, my associate, was not able to join us today, but I hope he'll be present for any future interviews of this type that we conduct. So that having been said, I'd like to wish a warm welcome to Driss Ghali,
Thank you, Ethan.
uh, say a word about himself and his work so far.
Thank you. I extend my thanks to the audience also. I'll try to navigate this podcast with my today's English that is very rusty, but I'll make my best effort. I was born in Morocco 46 years ago. I studied in France, mainly business administration and technology. So I'm not an academic. I've never not a teacher at the university, something like that. I've worked. I'm an ordinary man. I worked in the high tech, in the high information technology, in several transnational companies, and I started writing books 10 years ago, mainly after the bombings of Paris, Bataclan. I heard so many stupid, assumptions, interpretations about immigrations, Islam, the West, the guilt of the West. This made me write my first books, make my coming out, my my intellectual coming out, and I left the closet so 10 years ago, and my main drivers, there are two of them. One is violence, the other is identity. I believe that these two notions will be key for this century. It will be a violent one, and especially it will be the century of identity. The European one that feels besieged, but also the one of the diasporas. Diasporas, there are many of them: American, Mexican, American, Puerto Rican, French Arabs, French African, Irish Indian. Now I'm discovering that this new category has emerged also. Pakistani from Birmingham, etc., etc. You have a set of identity struggles that will be very that have the potential to be very um, uh, very fascinating, but also very sterile. It can be a source of stalling the civilization of the West. We can get stuck in this if we don't take the correct measures. We can get stuck in that, in this low to medium civil war based on identities, on ethnicities, on civilizations. It can be a kind of inferno of living in hell, uh, trading accusations, etc., etc. So I'm fascinated by that, and I think that my mission is to try to shed light on how to manage these two dangers: the rise of violence and the clash of identities.
Thank you. And I think that these questions are very much present. In fact, they're everywhere present in your book, A Counter History of French Colonization. I just wanted to begin by noting that this is not a standard history. It is a history of later French imperial and colonial efforts, stretching roughly from the conquest of Algeria
Yeah.
to the decolonial period immediately following the Second World War. But it goes beyond that, because the book is also very much an intervention in current debates relating.
Right. I've lost you. I don't hear you anymore.
A history written from the. Oops.
Okay, you're back.
Right. A history written from the perspective of some very, very contemporary concerns and questions. And so I wanted to begin today by looking at the present.
Yeah.
As it were, at the problems in response to which you wrote this book. And to do so, I thought it might be interesting if we talk about France specifically. So I lived in France for quite a few years. You lived in France for many years. You returned there regularly, more often than I do, I think. And I think so we both have some shared references and knowledge in that respect. There's a website in France. It's a very famous website, notorious website. It's a website that I read recently. Apparently, is consulted by everyone in the French political class, by everyone in the French journalistic establishment, but nobody will say its name or acknowledge that they regularly, draw upon it for information. It's an interesting website in a way. I think it began in 2005. It's called François de Souche, which is a play on words, but I'll let that go. It's simply a news aggregator. All it does is take articles that appear either in the national press or very often in the regional press and present them together in a very polemical fashion, because these articles all have to do, essentially, with violence and conflict and immigration in contemporary French society.
Right.
And so I've been looking at it a long time. I'm sure you have. I'm sure many of our viewers, if they're familiar with France, have as well. And something I've noticed is that when I first began looking at it in 2008 or 2010 or whenever it was, every so often, there'd be stories about juvenile delinquency and violence and drug dealing and all that kind of thing. And every so often, there would be a story that was absolutely grotesque, shocking. A story that would, assume national proportions, would be a source of controversy and so forth. And as the years passed, I realized that those stories of extraordinary violence or of abject, attacks and incidents, the frequency with which those stories appeared accelerated. Stories that once upon a time you would read about, let's say every 3 months, every 6 months, once a year, now are almost weekly. And among the best known of them, we could cite the case of Lola, her, the little girl, I think she was 12, who was kidnapped, essentially raped, I believe, and then murdered by an illegal immigrant from Algeria, I believe.
Right.
A woman, no less. And there's Thomas, more recently, the young man stabbed to death at a village festival somewhere in rural France by, I guess, a mainly immigrant origin gang who had come from the next village. And then this week, this is just off the top of my head, but this week there's been much discussion about the case of a 46-year-old man named Raphael Graven, I believe, who was essentially murdered over a period of days, or perhaps it was weeks, as part of a kind of live streaming experience that apparently thousands of people were watching and actively engaging and encouraging until his death. And so what we witness in these stories, and many others have commented upon this, is a kind of what they call in French ensauvagement. We translate sometimes, not very literally, as a re-savaging of society. Others have referred to it, including Emmanuel Macron, as a process of décivilisation, decivilization.
Right.
And similar phenomena can be observed in other European countries. I mean, I think that there's probably something common here if you look at the UK with the grooming gang scandal.
Right.
Or perhaps even, though this seems to have more to do with gangs, the epidemic of stabbings in the UK. And so I suppose my question for you, given that your book is about the colonial experience, first and foremost, and to what degree does this new hyperviolence in many European countries that are simultaneously experiencing unprecedented levels of mass immigration, to what degree does this violence bear any resemblance to colonial conflict?
You could have spoken about Sweden also,
Yes, yes,
the capital of Europe of rapes.
yeah.
It's crazy. Malmö today, it's unbelievable. The same happens also in Spain. Sometimes in Germany, you have the massive sexual assault in Köln. Yeah, 10 years ago, under the Frau Merkel reign, and so on and so on. You have, of course, the Moroccan mafia, the Mokro mafia in Belgium and Holland, that did actually threaten the royal family of Holland, I think, and the Minister of Justice of Belgium. Death threats, and they are under protection. It's unbelievable. I have some trouble. I'm at pains with believing it, but it is true in today's Europe. So it is, of course, a colonial phenomenon. It's a new phenomenon. We are not. It's not the colony of colonization as we saw it in the British Empire in India, or by the Americans in Cuba, or the Spanish in Cuba, or the French in Tunisia, for example, 100 years ago. We don't have the invasion by regular forces. It's different, but it's still colonial, because at the heart of colonization there is hyperviolence. For three main reasons. First, as an invader, I have to break your will, to make you accept the unbelievable, the unacceptable. So hyperviolence. I will scare you. This is day-to-day terror. Europe is living day-to-day terror. Terror is not limited today to 9/11, Bataclan, London bombing, the bus in metro bombing, or whatever. Day-to-day terror. When on top of my mind, near Reims, the capital of Champagne in France, thugs from foreign origin, they literally opened the head of a reporter that went there to take photos for the local newspaper. They opened his head. It's completely crazy. This is terror. So I will break your will. I will make you accept the new reality. That is, you are not anymore the master of your land. That there is a new order coming from overseas, enforced by gangs from overseas. The second factor, the second driver of this violence is to impress. Because it makes a profound impact on the collective mind of the people, on the collective unconscious of the people, and it creates a kind of sideration. And violence, of course, and colonization is, of course, about that. Is to make you accept the new order. Third, there is humiliation. In order for you to accept the foreign rule, you have to feel less than you are. You have to feel that your value has decreased. You have to feel that you are a loser. That you have to feel that you have lost a war. So I have to humiliate you day to day. And in the story of French colonization, and of course in the story of the Spanish one, the Portuguese one, and all colonizations, you have a sequence of crimes, between brackets, normal crimes, that underline the degradation of the natives, especially sexual crimes. Raping young girls, young boys, raping the elderly. There is a trend now in France of burglary followed by rapes on old ladies that live alone, sexual assault during homejackings in France. These are not. This is not craziness. This is not madness. This is targeted violence on the symbols of the honor of a people. A people is worth something. A collectivity is worth something. A group of humans is worth something if it's able to defend the weak or the sacred, the women, the honor of the women, the elderly, the kids, and of course, today in France, the cops are being targeted also. You had a homejacking in near Paris 4 years ago, where two cops, a couple made of two policemen, they were killed by a foreign, by an illegal immigrant. When you kill the cops, you kill the authority. It's a kind of castration. So that will be my last word. This is a daily castration of the masculinity in France and Western countries. The message is subliminal and very efficient. It is telling them that times has changed, a new order is in place, and it is not favorable to the natives.
Yes. So there are a number of very striking themes in what you've just said, and I certainly would agree with the characterization in its broad strokes. One thing that's striking about it is that the violence that you're referring to, you ascribe meaning to it, but at the same time, it very clearly is not organized, not in any genuine sense. It's not top-down violence. Much of it is spontaneous, or is being conducted by small groups, often of very young men, who you would not suppose capable of a degree of intentionality or organization that would be needed in order to engage in significant, meaningful action in any large scale way. And yet, when you look at it as a whole, it does seem to carry the meaning that you just referred to. That's sort of a colonial meaning. It seems to have the aspect of an attempt to occupy territory and to do so by using the tools of humiliation and violence to establish, as it were, essentially a new order or a new rule. And it's interesting also in its specifically sexual aspect, because yes, many of the crimes that we're talking about are sexual crimes, and some of them are very bizarre. We've seen the rise, and certainly in France. Again, this is something you see on François de Souche all the time, but it's not unique to France. The rise of this strange category of sexual crime that targets the extremely elderly, where migrants or immigrant origin people will break into, for example, the apartment of a 92-year-old woman who lives alone and is widowed, and beat and rape her for hours. An astonishing thing. On the face of it, doesn't make any sense, because often, obviously, the common understanding of rape, for instance, is that it's driven by male sexual desire and frustration. That does not seem to be an understanding that is sufficient to account for this wave of rapes targeting the extremely elderly, for instance. And so what emerges from the picture you've painted here is a type of violence that, while it's completely disorganized, opportunistic, nevertheless tends in always the same direction. And what I wonder about this is whether what we're dealing with here is not essentially a question of anthropology.
Short answer, yes. And anthropology is autopilot of history. This is autopilot history. This is it is our fate. We have internal drivers, internal energies that drive us in towards a peculiar outcome. When the white man was strong and excellent, his anthropology pushed him to colonize the South. Today he is weak, so the anthropology, the same one, the same human nature, the same physics, law of physics, is pushing the South to colonize the North. And the tools used by the South, they are low cost. We're not talking about missiles or expedition or marine troops or expeditions like the one France launched in Indochina in the 1860 to control Vietnam. No, we are talking about a silent, although permanent influx of young men between 15 to 25 years old, essentially men. They are not married. We're not talking about family. Young men that occupy the land and settle it, because they occupy it physically. They take the monopoly of violence. For example, in France, you have no more a French mafia. In Marseille, the mafia is not anymore white or Corse from Corsica. It's Algerian or Moroccan. I wonder, even if in Italy, if the Moroccans are not going to overcome the Italian mafia. The same occurs in Germany, applies in Germany with the Lebanese mafia, Turkish, Kosovar, Georgian, etc., etc. So this is human nature in play. It's bottom up, of course. It is low cost, it's spontaneous, but it's not meaningless. Whenever you have, because what is the policy of Europe today, and also the policy of the South today, is open borders, which means putting people in competition. The competition is organized between the third world and the people of France, and the Italian people, the Scottish people, the Irish people, and the people of the North are not ready to. First, they were not warned. Nobody informed them about that. And they are not ready because they are too civilized. I won't say they are superior, but they are too civilized. They forgot they forgot anthropology. They forgot that a man can be the defense of the woman and also a danger for her. They forgot that the duty of a man is to defend a woman or the elderly. They forgot that people are, the first things that happen when two groups of people are in contact is confrontation, defiance, not collaboration. We forgot about that by centuries of industry, civilization, welfare state, Catholicism, Protestantism, etc., etc. By the story of the Holocaust, the genocides in North America, we recoiled our instincts. You spoke about the sexual aspect. It's very important because it is very humane. It's terribly humane to control a territory. You can use the Armada, the $1 million missiles and satellites, or you can do targeted violence on women. What happened now in Eastern Congo between the guerrilla coming from Rwanda and the people of East Congo, the rapes of the babies, the dislocation of the bodies of the women, dislocation. And you see the same thing or similar things in France, because when you target what happened in Srebrenica between white people, between the Serbs and the Muslims in the 90s, under the watch of the Dutch peacekeepers.
Right.
Yeah, this is not meaningless. This is very efficient, unfortunately, because when you rape the women, you send a message to all the men of their tribe, their clan, their people. You are useless, guys. You worth nothing, and you deactivate them. And this is a war. This is a strategic strike.
And this is interesting also because, so often when the what now appears to be the phenomenon of mass rape in Europe is condemned as such. Apologists for what is happening, apologists for mass immigration and for the powers that currently govern Europe, will often represent these incidents as nothing but incidents, as faits divers, as just crime blotter items, which is curious because already starting in the 1970s, it was just generally acknowledged on the left that Susan Brown Miller's work on rape, right, was insightful and important, namely that this notion that rape is always about power. It's not first and foremost about sex. This was just seen as accepted wisdom on the left. Now it's been apparently forgotten. And one aspect of Brown Miller's writing, and I'm only vaguely familiar with this, but as I understand it, is that how is rape about power? Well, it's about power in the sense that it's control of the woman's body. It's also about power in the sense that it is a manner, or can be in context of war, to attack affiliation, the relations between generations, the capacity of society to reproduce itself, literally reproduce itself, because outsiders are taking control of women's wombs in various ways, but also symbolically to reproduce itself, because it's incapable now of defending itself and projecting itself, the past into the future through the act of generation, through transmission, through reproduction, and so forth. So symbolically, it is extremely efficient and profound form of humiliation that's inflicted not just on individual women who are victims of these crimes, but on their entire society, and perhaps first and foremost on their men, who, as you point out, have shown themselves incapable of defending their women folk, as they used to be called. We don't say that anymore in English, but it's significant that once upon a time we did. So I think it's a kind of from an anthropological perspective, what is happening now isn't simply grotesque. It's also kind of, I think, fascinating. You would think that contemporary academics would be deeply interested in these subjects. I'm sure they're not, but that's the world we live within. The other point that comes up in this discussion, I think, has to do with the role of the state, because you would think that in a liberal society, even if it's a highly civilized one, nevertheless there's this understanding that the general respect for law, for individual rights and so forth, is predicated on the cession of the right to violence, sometimes even self-defense, to the state. People are no longer violent because it's understood that the state will protect them. But that does not appear to be the case in Europe. Sometimes, in fact, the contrary appears to be the case.
In a population that is not carrying guns. Which is a very significant difference between the situation in the USA and in Western Europe. People are not allowed to defend themselves. They cannot practice legitimate defense, self-defense, because they are not carrying guns. They can be jailed if they use guns. So they really rely on the state, and there is a now a political revolution, a Copernican one. It's something really historic, because the state for the first time is turning its back on the population and is becoming a reluctant sheriff, as you see it in the UK with Keir Starmer, two-tier justice. I won't defend your kids if they're raped by gangs of Pakistanis, but I will jail you if you tweet something with xenophobia or suspicion of xenophobia. The state now is an active collaborator of a political revolution which main outcome is the end of the sovereignty of the people. The nicest, the most shining conclusion result of the process of civilization of Europe was the handover of sovereignty to the people from the king or God or from the church to the people. Today, because of immigration, because of this hyper violence that is linked to immigration, to foreign colonization, you see a shift in that. There is no more sovereignty of the people because women are raped. The people is no more, the natives are no more the main focus of the state. One example, most allowances given to the French, handed out in France for housing allowances, most of them are given to foreigners. So the French state is helping foreign settlers live in France, get a house, and he's not helping anymore its own people. The same applies for the public health system, completely overwhelmed by foreigners. So more important, the foreigners are now exerting the people the job of the police. They're policing the natives because they call them xenophobic, Islamophobic, racist. And with the complicity of the state, they are these gangs, these foreign gangs. It would be very easy for the French state, for example, to defeat them. It's really super easy. We're not talking about Al Qaeda or Daesh. We're talking about a bunch,
the smuggling gangs in the UK. I mean, that
right.
It would take an afternoon to end that practice. If the
we're not talking about absolutely. We're not talking about Boko Haram or people that are really, or the gangs of Chechens in the Caucasus that knows the terrain. No, you own the terrain. You have the technology, the webcams. You have everything. There is a lack of political will because these gangs are the police of the state. They are a paramilitary force used by the state to enforce the new order, to tell the natives, you lost the war, an undeclared war, you lost it, shut up, don't complain, and collaborate with the new order. Embrace multiracial culture, multiracial matrimonial unions, and say that you love Jamaica or you love Algeria, and beware if you say that you love France or the UK. You can be called out and humiliated. This is really a crime, a political crime, and a real fundamental shift. It's a pivot in the story, in the political story of the West. Nobody talks about that because it's highly sensitive, and because we are unfortunately jailed in a mental prison called World War II. We are still jailed in this cavern of Platon, where we are looking for the bad guy, and the bad guy must resemble more or less Hitler. He must be a white guy. He must be a man, a heterosexual, and we are trapped in this myth like rats. And our brightest are not brave enough to destroy these false walls of this myth and shed light on the reality. This is the reality that our people are living, and it's not really. It's not nice. There is no progress in that. I don't see the progress in that. I don't see it's the dismantlement of civilization. When you go to Paris or even to Barcelona, tears comes to you because you say, "What is all that about?" The cities are dirtier, more dangerous, but they are paying a heavy price for, and there is no compensation. The GDP is falling. Everything is falling.
That's of course the question. I mean, if all of this were being done, in the interests of some great plan that eventually, when it came to completion, would have some wonderful payoff for everyone would benefit. They would just have to go through this period of difficulty first and violence. Right. At least perhaps you could think that there was some redeeming quality to it. But on the face of it, there's nothing good that can come of it for anyone who's involved. And so that really is the extraordinary thing. But speaking of good coming of the experience of colonization, I thought perhaps this would be a moment to turn to then the more historical portions of your book, because your book mainly has to do with the past, not the present. And consider colonization in that light. What is there for us to learn today, in France or elsewhere, from the experience of French colonialism?
We can learn several lessons that are, I think, universal and very useful and meaningful for the people coming from the south and the people of the north, including the diasporas. Because mainly colonization is a clash of civilization. A clash of civilizations, a clash of governances. France was able to colonize Senegal, for example, or Morocco, because it was its governance, its inner governance, was delivered better results than the governance of Morocco, Senegal. Its elite back then was superior in terms of output, of talent, to the elite of Morocco and the elite of Senegal or Indochina. So the lesson there is that if you want to avoid being colonized, you have to be superior to the others. You have to deliver power through the excellence of the elites, and also through your civilization. You have to look at your civilization and see if it's pushing you toward excellence, development, or to stagnation. This is what I call the autopilot of the people. And the main obstacle to development, that is the civilization and governance. And this is a major lesson. Some countries colonized by France, they used the violence of colonization. It's a real trauma. They use the trauma to at least to renew their elites or to reform them, which is very positive. Morocco, for example, the colonization was a crime in Morocco. We suffered a lot. We were humiliated. Women were raped, etc., etc. People were displaced, but a part of the Moroccan elites understood that this was a window of opportunity to clean our house, to do the homework. And we changed our elites. They became less religious. They became more technical. We opened engineering schools. We changed completely our governance. We opened a justice system, a tax collection system, because collecting tax was not easy, was not in our DNA in Morocco. We were not able to collect tax, so we had a weak state, etc., etc. The same happens in Black Africa. Thanks to colonization, the Black people, they managed to escape gerontocracy, because power in Black Africa was among the elderly. And thanks to France, power came to the military or the physicians. Félix Houphouët-Boigny, the first president of Côte d'Ivoire, he was a doctor, and he was young. If France was not there, he never would have the chance to become a president, because he was too young and he was not coming from a lineage, from a specific caste. Third, I won't be long, because the book is full of several things that you can really apply to any country: Nigeria, India, Pakistan, not only the French empire. The third main lesson, I think, learning, is that every country had a rendezvous, had an appointment with modernity. Everyone. And modernity means hyper-violence, because modernity, the industrial revolution, the technical revolution, requires change of elites, an exodus from rural areas to cities. It requires the exploitation of the poor by the capitalists. It still requires accumulation of capital. It requires a revolution in the religious affairs. Look at what happens in Europe, the reform, the Mayflower in the USA. It requires the liberation of women to become part of the workforce. It requires several small or less or medium revolutions that are violent, because people there are people that will lose interest and status and power in this process. And colonization was, I would say, a modernization on the microwave, on steroids, very rapid. And it obliged Morocco, Senegal, Mali, Algeria, Indochina to modernize. If France was not in charge of this process, they would have done it alone. Look at how many millions of Russians died in order to Russia to become an industrial nation. 20 million? 25 millions? How many died in Ukraine because of Stalin, because of hunger, because he said that he needs to industrialize Russia, and that so the Ukrainians had to starve in the 1930s. How many Chinese? China. So we must keep this in mind. Maybe one more funny stuff. The end of colonization did not mean the end of dictatorship. Colonization was a dictatorship, of course, but democracy was not installed in Morocco, in Algeria, in Indochina, in Senegal, in Mali after France left us. We changed a dictatorship by another. Second, the end of colonization did not mean freedom from underdevelopment. We lived in misery during colonization, and we lived in misery to the day. Because we did not decolonize ourselves from our bad elites. Why Nigeria is not a great country? I love Nigeria, but why is not Nigeria meeting its aspiration? Why is not Nigeria becoming a new dragon of Africa? Because of the bad elite of Nigeria, because of ill governance in Nigeria. I mean, inefficiencies, corruption, nepotism, clientelism, lack of common interest, lack of patriotism. We have the same in North Africa, in other countries. And so, I mean, ending colonization is not the end of hell. If you would like to end hell, you have to get rid of the bad elite. This is what I call the second independence. It is maybe more difficult than decolonization, because when you have a foreigner rule, it's easy to say we will kill the French because they have another skin, they have another religion, they're easy, you can identify them. But when you have to change your elites, the governance, you have to kill yourself. You have to cure your own cancer. It's very difficult. But this is necessary, and this is what you have done, guys, in the West. By the building of the USA was a decolonization from all the illness of Europe. The same happened with the French Revolution. That was a massacre of biblical proportions. The same in Spain with Franco, in Italy. You always find this moment of this violent liberation of the potential of the people. This revolution is always very difficult, and you can start it, but you don't know when you will finish it.
Yes, and your book is full of cases in which this revolution was not carried through to completion.
Right.
In fact, that's generally the case of former French imperial holdings or colonial holdings. But there are exceptions, and perhaps the most obvious of them is Vietnam.
Right.
Vietnam, as you tell the story, was a former French colonial holding, Indochina, that succeeded in carrying through this revolution of mentalities and moving forward in an embrace with modernity.
Yeah, it's a success story of a former colony that managed to industrialize and to reform itself in order to become one of the winners or the would-be winners of globalization. And the main factor of success there was the match between the Vietnamese identity, the mindset, civilization, the match between it and the requirements of globalization. A sense of discipline, the value of work, obedience, the importance of the group over the individual, and so on. And Indochina was very close to to modernization. With or without France, it had great chances to become an industrial country, like Korea or Malaysia today. And on the contrary, Black Africa, North Africa, are still, in my opinion, and the facts confirm that they're far away from from meeting the requirements of globalization, because you have to change, to transform yourself, to become competitive. And colonization, by the way, is about opening the borders of the world. Colonization obliged every part of the world to participate in the human history. You could not anymore stand on the top of your hill and say, okay, I am from X or Y group, and I don't care about what's going on in New York or in Jakarta or in Beijing. We are all today concerned about what's happening everywhere because we are in competition. And the Vietnamese example is really makes my point. Civilization is the key to unlock development. If you don't, I mean, human factor. And one of the big mistakes of the French colonization was to forget about that and to focus on material change, hardware, infrastructure, building bridges or channels or airports. And they completely forgot, neglect education, the renovation of elites. And they made us, in a certain way, believe that. And even in Morocco today, when you hear the narrative of the authorities, you hear they overstress the hardware. And they don't give the importance required to the human factor. And this is the what I call so Morocco is trapped. And you have to bring changing this myth, escaping from it is very difficult because too many interests are in place. And you have this is why sometimes it can get violent to convince people to yield and to embrace a new alternative, convince people to lose their position in the society.
I mean, this is a rather provocative question, but couldn't one say that is actually what's happening in the West today? That Western elites are attempting precisely to convince native populations in Western countries to lose and to become something else?
Yeah, the short answer is yes. They are doing everything possible to convince the native populations to lose, to enter resignation, and to accept a new world order where they are not citizens of the first class, where they are ruled in a different manner. You have Sharia laws now in the UK, maybe soon in Belgium or even Holland, and where democracy, where the sovereignty of the people is completely forgotten and erased, because free speech is censored. You can't you can't say the truth because it makes you racist, homophobic, whatever, Islamophobic, whatever. And of course, you can get punished by gangs and by Salafists. For example, all the French media is scared to death by the small portion of the Muslims in France, a very small portion of them, after the massacre of Charlie Hebdo.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know many French journalists that are able to say the truth now about Islam, because they can get killed.
Yes. Yes, in a sense, what you see, of course, in Western societies is the sort of forcible conversion of the citizens into colonial subjects.
Right. So you have to shut up, to shut your mouth. You have to obey. You have to accept a new religion. You have to accept the power of Islam. You have to accept the halal food. You have also to accept your degradation in the historical narrative. For example, the young men in France now are taught a history that is completely manipulated. That about their past, they tell them that they were people of that committed genocides, that were homophobic, that they took advantage of Algeria, that they become rich and industrialized because of the colonies, which is a complete mystification. Yeah. It's not true. France lost its fortune in the colonies. France became a rich country thanks to the French people, to the sacrifice of the French people, the peasants that were exploited by the capitalists, thanks to the audacity of the French capitalists, of the French scientists, of the engineers. French did not make a fortune in Indochina, Morocco, Algeria. But there is a political process that is supported by academia, by the press, by the NGOs, by the UN, that is slowly but strongly trying to convince the natives to become a community among others, a stakeholder among others. And as long as they stay paying taxes, because there is something that is not negotiable, is that you have to produce value, to feed the state. And we find here a notion that was touched on by a great Arab thinker called Ibn Khaldun from the late Middle Ages. He lived in Tunisia, but he knew very well Morocco and Algeria. He was a bright guy, a political scientist, and he said that the empires, they always, let's say, the government, the state, always need a group of people to work a lot and to pay taxes. This group need to be disarmed. They can't carry guns, because if they were armed, they could avoid taxation. They could avoid a raise of the taxes, or they could allow themselves not to obey to the norms, restrictions, to the mandates. Think of the EV mandate, etc., etc., etc. These kind of people, these productive people of the cities, these people need to be policed. They need to be controlled, scared by another type of population made of nomad people that use violence, that are not civilized, and that in compensation do not pay taxes, because they don't work. They don't work. They don't go to school. They don't. They live on allowances. They live on looting. You see in Paris today, les Champs-Élysées, the nicest avenue in the world, is being looted once a year at least.
At least.
By the same, at least. What is my point is that we are now seeing the emergence of a new governance that is post-democratic in the West, where you have pockets of populations that are scaring the mainstream population that is scared, weak, completely deconstructed, but is still productive, paying taxes. And you see it in France, for example. you can we have several thousand cars that are burned each year
Mm.
in total impunity. But if you dare run your car over 80 kilometers per hour in the highway, you have the helicopter that is arresting you, and you pay because you have a two-tire.
Yeah.
So the two-tire justice system is not an accident. It's it's completely in line with what Ibn Khaldun said. The government is targeting, is directing these populations in order to control the part of the population that is creating value and paying taxes.
Mm. No, it's fascinating. It's an analysis that nicely dovetails with a term that many people watching this will be familiar with, anarcho-tyranny, a
Right.
term coined by Sam Francis. But in any case, we should probably wrap up. I just wanted to say that I hope that this exchange has given listeners a sense of the richness of your book, because on the one hand you present this very thorough and detailed overview of the experience of French colonialism. I studied French history and I learned a great deal reading it, and it's fascinating. But in addition to which, you showed the extent to which these debates, having to do with sometimes rather distant past, are really speak to many aspects of our current predicament, especially in Western Europe, but the United States as well.
Right.
Not just at the level of post-colonial discourse and the myths that have been woven around the colonial experience, though that too, but also with regards to the experience of civilizational encounter and what that implies for the various populations that are involved in it. An experience that today is general across the West, and formerly was more or less relegated to the margins of Europe, the parts of the world that Europeans traveled to colonize. So it's a kind of a fascinating back and forth between past and present. And again, I would recommend it not simply for self-interested reasons that our readers check your book out, A Counter History of French Colonization. It's gotten some attention in the press, but I think it deserves a great deal more. And we would love to bring out more of your work in the future.
Thank you very much. I would like just to mention something, is that we see today dynamics that were in place back in the time of colonization, where you said the encounter of people. You had always the same kind of reactions. What you call today the white fly. You had it in Morocco or in Algeria. People left, or in Black Africa, people left their homes, their valleys, their farms to another country because they did not tolerate foreign rule, but they did not also tolerate the difference. Because put yourself under the skin of a Muslim, and that views his women, that lives under Sharia, and he has to lives a few meters away from a French family where the woman is not veiled, where they drink wine. It's intolerable, because it is not a question of tolerance. It's a question of living with a counter model every day. It's not humanly bearable. So people left. You have people that resisted. You have people that assimilated. And you see it today in Europe. You have a small, a silent exodus, massive one. At least in France, people are leaving cities. They're avoiding the contact with diversity.
Yeah.
They're leaving to the rural areas. They're leaving to the mountains. Nobody talks about that, or few academics, but they are fleeing the contact with diversity, with other civilizations. Some are assimilating. You see today some people in France called Stéphane, Pierre, Paul, that convert to Islam, that speak like a migrant, that maybe sometimes are more radical in their Islam than many Muslims. they assimilated to the culture of the new group. It's fascinating, and as you said, it's anthropology, and anthropology will never really change because human nature is stable over the course of history.
Yeah, I can't remember where, but I saw someone remark, and I thought it was quite interesting that, over the past couple of decades, Western elites have been more or less encouraged to verse themselves in their studies in business and management. But really what they should be studying henceforth is anthropology. And I think there might be some truth to that.
And we are paying a heavy price today of this ignorance. Yeah. And in France, the knowledge of the French elites on Islam was more sophisticated 100 years ago than today. It's crazy.
Yeah. No,
because today our elites are doing corporate finance.
Yeah.
Or business. And we are paying a very heavy price to that. And it's not nice for the white people, but so it's not nice neither for the people of the South. Because this mass migration is not the synonym of happiness. Because being a migrant is not that nice. I'm a professional migrant. I moved from Morocco to France, and from France to Brazil. So I'm a kind of expert. It's not easy, and it does not bring happiness to the ex-colonies. As far as I know, people are not happy in Algeria. They're not happy in Senegal. They are not happy in Pakistan. Because with migration, you give to the ruling elites, to the ruling regimes, one more life, an extra life, because they export their problems to the UK, to France. For example, in Morocco, each year we receive 11 billion euros as per remittance.
Yeah.
11 billion euros. This is half what we do with agriculture. And this is more than what we do with tourism. So this is a bonanza. Why does the IMF or the World Bank would like Morocco or Algeria or Egypt that gets 32 billion euros a year to reform? Why would you oblige me to reform, to make an effort, to change my organization, to improve my governance, if I can send you my poor people, and you give them work, you give them health, and they send me back money? It's a wonderful business. So this is it is killing change in the South. We will never become a South Korea or a Malaysia in Africa if we do not do the change, and we are exporting our problem. So we are delaying, postponing one more time the meeting we have with history. Are we going to become serious? Are we going to develop? The same happens also. We are exporting our good elites. Our Lenin, our Trotsky, our Che Guevara, our Fidel Castro, our Robespierre, our Jefferson, our our Washington are exported to Europe.
Sorry, 1 second. There we go.
They are now in Dubai, or in Singapore, or in instead of staying at home and making the revolution, making the change. It's like if I will take maybe a bad example. It's like if Obama was born and raised in Russia. We are exporting our good elites. So this is a catastrophe. This is a bad news for us too. So I think it's a lose-lose game. What's going on today? It's a lose-lose game, and the people from the north and the south have to find a way to collaborate to stop it. I'm not calling for the end of globalization or closing all the borders, but we have to get back anthropology insight and the national interest. What are we fighting for? Are we fighting for perpetuating the elites of the South? I'm not fighting for that. Are we fighting for the development of the South? I'm fighting for that. The same can be said about the North. I am not willing to die for the perpetuation of Keir Starmer. or Macron. I want them to leave. So this is the debate we must have today.
Yes. Well, thank you again.
Thank you.
Again, these are complex, fascinating questions and questions of history, but also the contemporary world that are in real dialogue with one another. And I'd love to explore more, but it's been an hour now, so I will say goodbye. But thank you again, Driss Ghali. And
thank you.
One last time, your book, A Counter History of French Colonization, is very much worth reading. So, thank you.
Thank you very much.